at day 10 now. How's everyone feeling so far? So I wanted to share a short story with you which we had read as part of our school literature allocation when I was in boarding school all those years ago. Jared, did you hear that? It's story time today.
Wow!
It's a story called The Bet by Anton Chekov. First, let me put some mutton to thaw. So let it thaw the natural way.
अच्छा बहुत अच्छा है.
Eventually, I'm going to try to turn that mutton into some yakni pulao, so let's see how that goes. Alright, coming back to the story.
I got you.
So the story begins with a party that takes place at a rich banker's house, and among one of the many guests at his house for this grand party that he's hosting is a young lawyer. So among the many topics that are being discussed, there is a debate going on between the guests at the party between the merit of something like capital punishment, killing a person for their crime, or life imprisonment. This is the part where the lawyer gets very excited, and the banker, who's the host of the party, and the lawyer have a bet that the lawyer would agree to stay in captivity for a period of 15 years without leaving captivity for the assured reward money of $2 million. And that's because the lawyer believes that life imprisonment is an easier sentence to carry out, easy, rather than just being killed in one shot. So he agrees to this bet, and so the bet begins. Now, of course, I'm not going to be able to do justice to the whole story by going into the nitty-gritties, but to cut a long story short, the lawyer, now in captivity, starts reading books on theology, on travel, on life sciences, on medical matters, and basically becomes entrenched in all possible forms and variations of human knowledge as a way to keep himself busy, as a way to keep himself completely entrenched in a world that he can't witness because he's in captivity for 15 years, remember? Now, the banker who had hosted the party and who has also agreed to pay $2 million to the lawyer who agreed to give up his freedom and who now lives in the shack of the banker's mansion. That banker is going through a difficult financial period. He realizes that some of his investments in the stock market, etc., have kind of backfired, and he doesn't have the kind of money that he originally had. So he's in deep soup as this lawyer, who as a part of his bet has continued to keep his end of the bargain, staying in a room with just one small window, reading books, and sort of just living out his captive days. Also, this being so much more difficult than forced captivity because this is more of a chosen captivity. So the lawyer's cutting out his bet. The banker realizes he doesn't have enough money. The lawyer is becoming smarter by the day and learning so much about the world through the endless supply of books that the banker has been kind enough to give him. This man in captivity, this banker doesn't have the money, right? The banker realizes that the only way to absolve himself of the responsibility of coughing up the $2 million is if he kills the lawyer, who is now definitely a much older man. If he kills the lawyer in his sleep. We reach the penultimate final act of the story where the banker enters the hut where the lawyer has been living for the last 15 years, and the very next morning the lawyer would be a free man and would be $2 million rich. So the banker enters the hut and discovers a letter, and in that letter the lawyer surprisingly renounces the $2 million that he had once entered this bet for, and also speaks in a very despicable, nihilistic, and misanthropic manner about the very nature of human existence and how he has seen it all and lived it all, but has nothing but contempt and hatred and a sense of disillusionment towards the fleeting fantasies of the human, the human survival, the human thought processes, and the human evolution in general. The banker can't believe that the man has given up the desire for $2 million, and therefore the lawyer leaves just a few minutes before the bet was to be completed and just disappears, and the banker keeps wondering what happened.
Questions?
Now, what is the moral of this story? What I love about Anton Chekov's writing is it's extremely open ended. What I think can be extracted from this story is a fact that is very common to all of us, and that is the more we know, the more we've read, the more we feel like we have conquered everything that is there to conquer. It makes us perhaps a little arrogant, perhaps a little complacent, perhaps a little lazy, perhaps a little extravagant in our fantasies about what we can or cannot do. So while knowledge is power, knowledge, in my opinion, is responsible power. Knowledge is like a sharp stick that you hold in your hand, and now that sharp stick can be used to injure someone, or it can be used to pierce through a fruit. As we saw in the story, the man's captivity made him bitter, made him sad, made him almost hateful. And as you are now in captivity, what is it making you? Remember, we spoke about basic attitudes a few days ago. What basic attitudes are manifesting, what basic attitudes are getting more and more rehearsed in you. That's important. So, as much as we enjoy the knowledge that comes to us via newspapers, via WhatsApp forwards, and as you are now in captivity, what is it making you? Remember, we spoke about basic attitudes a few days ago. What basic attitudes are manifesting, what basic attitudes are getting more and more rehearsed in you. That's important. So, as much as we enjoy the knowledge that comes to us via newspapers, via WhatsApp forwards, try not to see that knowledge in isolation, but rather as a catalyst for several things that are dynamic in you, several internal, emotional, and intellectual processes that are dynamic within you, that are getting your attitudes to jump up and down, and become a part of your personality. Your relationship with knowledge is as important as the knowledge itself.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Be mindful of how you view that knowledge and how you process that knowledge and what that knowledge makes you feel about yourself versus the rest of the world. Is the rest of the world stupid now that you have this knowledge? Is the rest of the world lesser than you now that you have this knowledge? Is the rest of the world less enlightened than you now that you have this knowledge? Is the rest of the world undeserving of being saved now that you have this knowledge? Is the rest of the world not listening to what you always thought was the right thing to do now that you have this knowledge? Is the rest of the world now a compassionate and enjoyable experience for you now that you have this knowledge? So it's not just important to just acquire knowledge and collect it like a stamp or like a coin collection, but also important to understand that there are certain attitudes that you have towards knowledge which can predispose you to act and think in certain ways, and that can inform the trajectory of your life once this quarantine is lifted. So I know it's a little philosophical. I hope it's not too deep for you, but these are my thoughts for the day. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and if you want to read the story for yourself, which I encourage you to, it's called The Bet by
Ooh, yeah! Can do!
Knowledge combined with curiosity mixed with a healthy dose of humility. That's the way to go. और जिंदगी में
बहुत तरक्की करेगा तू, बहुत तरक्की।